The guests come in the back. Anyway, here's a story which I, again, find so compelling because the story he tells.
I run and all of a sudden I'm like this horrible guy. This guy, go back to his old shows.
The Man Show?
He treated me.
Where I used to sit in my room, Trump is toast.
Trump is toast isn't just a funny line from Jim Carrey. It's the start of a comedy beatdown that left the former president fuming. When two comedy legends team up to roast someone, you know the target's gonna feel the burn. Grumpy Trumpy completely lost it after Kimmel and Carrey took turns dissecting his bizarre marriage on national television. From Melania's robotic posture to her reportedly celebrating when Trump caught COVID, this roast had everything, and Donald's reaction proves they hit a nerve. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. When two comedy legends decided to team up against Trump, nobody expected the absolute destruction that followed.
If anything, we've got to get back to a place where we realize that a vote is not who you are. And if you can't vote for a Democrat, at least let all this flood of information that's so negative.
Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel didn't just deliver a few lighthearted jabs. They performed comedic surgery on the former president's ego, leaving it in tatters. We all know what happens when Trump gets roasted. His Twitter fingers start twitching and the capital letters come out to play. What made this comedy beatdown so effective wasn't just the star power behind it. It was how Carrey masterfully shifted gears midway through his routine. After warming up the crowd with his trademark physical comedy and that iconic Trump is toast line.
Where I used to sit in my room, Trump is toast. That we're not the same country, that there's two countries. There's not two countries. I can break bread with anybody in this country.
Carrey suddenly dropped the silly faces and adopted a more serious tone. The audience could feel the mood change as he pinpointed exactly how Trump had made division, dishonesty, and hate seem like just another day in America. This wasn't your average celebrity roast. Carrey wasn't there just to get laughs. He was wielding humor like a weapon. Division, dishonesty, and hate became normalized under Trump's watch, Carrey pointed out, and that's not something we should just shrug off as political business as usual. The comedian used his platform to expose how dangerously the needle had moved on what Americans consider acceptable behavior from their leaders.
It's the stress reliever.
And here we have.
That's Space Force.
That's the Space Force, yeah.
That's the beginning of Space Force.
I'm glad some good is coming out of this stuff. This is Robert Mueller.
Robert Mueller putting the squeeze on the president. You can make a bad decision about a candidate. It's not who you are. It doesn't mean you're dumb.
Then Jimmy Kimmel stepped up to the mic, ready to deliver his own perfectly timed blow. Instead of complicated political analysis, Kimmel went for an analogy everyone could understand. America under Trump was like a broken device that just needs to be unplugged and rebooted. Simple? Yes. Devastating? Absolutely. With just a few words, Kimmel captured what millions of Americans had been feeling. The system was glitching under Trump's leadership, and sometimes the only fix for a malfunctioning machine is to turn it off and start over. These weren't random jokes thrown together for a quick laugh.
You know, and because you voted Republican, you're not stupid, you're not different, you're not worthless. It has to do with, it's become obvious that the choice was a bad one, we just need to change it.
Both comedians approached their material like skilled surgeons, using humor as what one observer called a scalpel to expose Trump's presidency as an open wound. They weren't just going for cheap shots, they were making incisions into the reality of what had happened to America, and the audience was eating it up.
You know, I could break bread with anybody who voted for Trump. We could find some common ground to love each other through. Is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down, and all, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face.
The roast reached new heights when Kimmel turned his attention to Trump's bizarre management style. Anyone who followed the Trump administration knows about the revolving door of staffers, the firings by tweet, and the constant chaos. Kimmel captured this perfectly with a joke about Trump's firing practices, including the absurd phrase, "wood fired with caramelized onions." The audience lost it, recognizing the perfect encapsulation of the random, impulsive leadership style that defined the Trump White House. Poor Trump couldn't handle it.
She actually stole, wow, look at this, I can do anything with it.
Well, they got you coming and going, man. You know what I mean? You try and you try and you give it an all.
Unlike his carefully controlled rallies, where devoted fans hang on his every word, he had zero power over what these comedians said about him. The man who built his brand on being untouchable was suddenly the punchline, and he didn't know how to respond except with his usual deflection tactics. Trump's reaction was predictably thin-skinned. He clapped back in the most Trump way possible, attacking Kimmel and claiming the comedian had once begged to bring him onto his show. This week,
The guests come in the back. Anyway, here's a story which I, again, find so compelling because the story he tells.
I run it, and all of a sudden I'm like this horrible guy. This guy, go back to his old shows.
The Man Show?
He treated me, Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
He used to, I did a show many times before I was doing this.
Yeah.
He used to greet me on the sidewalk.
comeback only highlighted the contrast between the comedian's skilled takedowns and Trump's inability to handle criticism with anything resembling grace or humor. The irony is thick enough to spread on toast. Trump, who made a name for himself insulting others, from reporters to political opponents to people with disabilities, completely crumbled when faced with some well-crafted punchlines. The man who dishes it out daily proved once again that he absolutely cannot take it. His angry responses only validated everything the comedians had said about him.
Not only did I not do for him, I've never done for any guest ever. You guys have been out in the front of this building. I was out there like a valet. I think he genuinely believes this happened. I mean, not only is this a fairy tale from beginning to end, I'm not walking out there, okay? And the guests, they don't even come in the front door.
By the end of this comedy massacre, Carrey and Kimmel had demonstrated something important. Trump's angry all-caps posts and tired rally slogans are no match for truth delivered with perfect timing and genuine humor. While Trump relies on brute force and volume, these comedians use precision and wit, and the difference was obvious to everyone watching.
The guy lies nonstop, but it's really especially interesting when the story he's making up involves you. So he told this story once before. He says he was on our show many times before he was a politician. But before he ran for president, he was on the show one time in 2007 at a rally. He has it in his head that when he was on our show before he was running for president, I would wait outside to greet him.
And that, folks, is the real power of comedy. When Trump faces criticism during his rallies, he can kick people out. On social media, he can block critics. But when comedy legends take aim at him on national television, total powerlessness. That's why his meltdown is so revealing. Comedy strips away his control of the narrative and exposes vulnerabilities that political debate often misses. What we've witnessed is comedy doing what it does best, speaking truth to power when other methods fail. The former president's inability to laugh at himself proves exactly why we need comedians more than ever in these politically charged times.